I'm recording.
I'm gonna have Kevin start the recording here, and then I'm gonna try to do the internal as the backup. All right, good evening, folks. Good to see that so many of you are in good spirits. I'm going to call this meeting to order, but before we get into the heart of the meeting, in response to COVID-19, the town board continues to use a hybrid model of our town board meetings. The adaptive practice came from the advice of the Association of Towns and in consultation with our town attorney. We did tune into this broadcast starting at 5:30, just allowing for board members to onboard and the community to onboard to the experience. All of this is being done in the best interest of public health. The meeting now, though, will begin at 6 p.m. Can I get a roll call?
Michael Cashman.
Present.
Thomas Wood.
From home.
Meg LaFave.
Here.
Barbara Hebert.
Here.
Charles Costick.
Here.
James Coffey.
Here.
And I am also present.
And Kevin Patnode is in the wings of the theater. Is there anything for public comment this evening? Okay. Before we get into some of the conversations, as I've been doing each week, I just wanted to give you a brief overview of some of the things that are related to COVID-19 in some of our local and statewide response. As many of you know by this point, on May 15th, the North Country will open to Phase 1. I would direct people to the website forward.newyork.gov, where people can obtain more information on Phase 1 and the additional phases. I would remind people that we are in the North Country region, and the reason I bring that up is this is not a county by county situation. Mark Henry, the chairman of the Clinton County Ledge, is on the control group that's monitoring the dashboards on a daily basis. He's our representative. I continue to serve on a local county group that is looking at best practices, conversations for not only jump-starting the economy, but more importantly, things like best practices with the overlay of health. With that in mind, the other day I did hold a virtual Zoom all-hands meeting. We had a great response from our employees. One of the reasons that I held that was I wanted individuals to hear some of the details that I've been sharing with you folks from me on behalf of the board. They continue to be very appreciative that we continue to focus on their safety and that we continue to protect them as employees. I'll have some more words on that in a little bit. It is anticipated that government will be reopening in Phase 2. Anticipated. I'm still waiting on more details of that. I will certainly share that with you as it develops. But as we continue to move forward, we're taking advantage of every opportunity to participate and lead the way forward. Steve Imhoff and I actually participated as co-presenters along with members of the Clinton County Health Department today in a Zoom workshop for code enforcement officers and fellow supervisors. That focus was on opening public buildings, so really town halls, the Clinton County office spaces. There is still much information that we need to obtain. There are segments of the CDC guidelines that are out there that we are trying to use for guidance, but we are also still awaiting certain recommendations and directives from New York State, okay? There's been a lot of focus on that. I do want to let you know that we have begun an office or town hall transformation that includes plexiglass at Jackie's, the receiver of taxes office and the town clerk's office, a simple sheet that will allow people to still pass business in between. We do have the walk-up window outside that was still installed. The town hall offices still continue to be locked with the doorbell using that service, but we are expanding The hallway taping system, if you've been shopping, you've seen it in Hannaford's and Price Chopper and elsewhere. It's directional markings, so it really creates different paths moving back and forth. It's to encourage a particular level of social distancing. The thing that we also installed today, I refer to them, when I was growing up, this is what they were called, but the cattle barn door, you know, the half door that swings like this. We've put in repurposed wood on the outside of the offices, and it has a small shelf like this so that the public can continue to interact with the offices when appropriate for the water department, codes and zoning, assessing, planning, etc. But it provides a certain barrier that adds to the social distancing norms that we're expected, you know, to live with right now, okay? So we're doing things, you know, that kind of meet a wide range of things. One is peace of mind, hopefully, that it adds to folks. There is a lot of anxiety going around, what it looks like, how it feels, what does it mean for them. We've also, again, provided face coverings to all of our employees. We have a significant amount of hand sanitizer. We are cleaning our office spaces regularly. We're on a double clean regimen at the end of each of the day. I personally go around and do some of the doors, spaces, once the employees, and as you're kind of walking out. I think of the Pink Panther, you know, when they're kind of like sliding out the room, they kind of walk out the path that they were on. So we're doing as much as we can, and we'll continue to integrate guidelines. The Chamber of Commerce, the Clinton County Health Department, and some of the other groups within the region are developing some of those best practices, and we will adopt those in the near future, okay? So with that, I would ask everybody, if you wouldn't mind going on mute, we're getting a little bit of feedback tonight, and then we'll go into our first thing. As I had discussed before, Patrick Bowen, our finance manager, is here tonight. From the beginning, we have been monitoring our finances, given that there are a number of influences or pressure points that are occurring. One of them was the Canadian border, we know, closing. That was going to have a significant impact. There is an unprecedented New York State budget that occurred, and we know most things trickle downhill. It's just the way that it is. The county also has certain worries and concerns, but we've been looking, watching, evaluating. We feel overall, as it's been stated before, that 2020, you know, by year's end, will be okay. We're really focused in on the 2021. What is the impact of today, and how does that play out in the year beyond? Okay, Patrick, do you have anything that you can contribute? Oh, you're on mute, bud.
Sorry, I listened to your directions too well. So. We'll go over sales tax first. As you know, we got our first check for the first quarter. It was $756,000 approximately. That was up, I think, $54,000 from last year. I don't expect to see that happening again for the rest of the year. So normally our first installment goes to the general fund. So that represents 30% of our general fund. So we only got 70% more to go for the rest of the year. So Michael and I have been working with department heads, looking at everyone's budgets and trying to see where we can speak out. Maybe we're not going to purchase equipment, or if there's labor we're not going to hire, or whatever. So in the general fund, we talked to department heads, a few of them, and we've come up with a list so far where we got about $436,000 we've shaved off the budget for this year, and that includes, you know, personnel, equipment, capital outlay, some benefits that we can cut back on, contractual items, and our debt service that we were going to use for the Roof Street street light. So, and then on our revenues part of it, talking with a few people, and Michael's been talking with his people, it doesn't seem like grant money's going to come through as high as we had hoped. So right now, we're probably looking at about a $970,000 decrease in revenues. Um, We do have some reserves that we can use to offset that, which is, thank God we have, so we have been very vigilant about concerns about the border closing in the past, and we tried to build up some fund balance for that purpose, and lo and behold, we're gonna use it now, so. Department heads we're still gonna review, these are some of the bigger ticket items that we're looking at, but we'll start getting down into minutia, we'll hopefully be able to find some more savings.
Pat, I just want to jump in for a moment to talk about some of the examples and the charges that the department heads have been given. So, you know, Scott's crew annually, they need, you know, some of his guys need to be certified, recertified, okay? Anybody that works for us should be certified. But they're looking at taking advantage of online schoolings and offerings that are developing now. And some of them are creating new opportunities that weren't there before, or they're doing discounted rates. I think I used this before, if I didn't, I apologize, but Trevor, for one of his groups, is providing a planning conference materials, and that material will be good for the whole year, and it can be used in a wider swath of things. So he will be able to use some of those materials with the planning board members, and it was at a much more significant reduced cost. And now you also don't have the individual traveling to a conference, et cetera, et cetera. So there's secondary cost savings built into some of the savings that we're looking at. And we continue to look at new models for that going into 2021. That's why I say the 2021 is kind of the long-term focus, but it's connected to this year because we may be able to bridge into some things knowing that we can take advantage of those items this year. So I just wanted to lay that out as a perspective.
That's good. Alright. So some of the areas we've been looking at, as Mike said, conferences was one of them. Some of our summer help, we're not gonna be bringing people back or, hoping to meet us from what I understand, so, we'll have some savings there. We also looked at just the equipment and capital outlay. We're trying to put off any purchases we can until next year or possibly 2022, so. Obviously, we don't want anybody to be driving unsafe vehicles, but, if we can get them to last that long, that's what we're gonna do. So, going the rest of the year, I don't have the crystal ball and nobody really seems to, so we're just trying to, you know, spend money on only things that are essential. And we started that from day one. Michael, put that order in, I think on day one, 61 days ago, so. And we're seeing other savings too with fuel, because we're not driving the vehicles as much, and also gas prices are down, so. I did a computation just looking at last year compared to this year, and we already have a $7,000 savings on that, so. We also may be getting some savings on our insurances, because we're not driving our vehicles as much in the past, and same thing with our workman's compensation, so. So we may see some other savings, but just because we have those savings doesn't mean we're gonna go out and spend them, because we feel we have to, so. I think we're being very vigilant about what we're spending our money on. Department heads are being very good as usual. They have the expenditures, they come in and talk to Michael or myself. If they're deemed essential, we obviously let them go, but we're still getting our bills for electricity and water and sewer and all that other stuff, so. I don't know, I just hope we can get through this and we'll have a good year in 2021, so.
Pat, I also want to go a step further to give one of the most crystal demonstrations of how remarkable our team is. As I have been doing is meeting with department heads and holding daily briefings. I also had a management meeting with the 3 shop stewards for the union, you know, to keep them up to speed as best as possible. I mean, there's so much information that's coming by, folks, by the hour. In short, you know, I just laid it out to them, and you know, didn't hold anything back and said, we don't know what we don't know, but there is a strong reality that there are stresses out there, with the sales tax, et cetera, and I could go down the laundry list. Anyways, as we began to have these conversations and explore things, I put a challenge out to the team members, and I said, I need you to be part of this process, not just by looking and reimagining what training is going to look like, and how to pull back on spending for vehicles, etc. My philosophy, and I think you share this philosophy, is that it does us no good to have a bay of trucks in the garage and not have the people to operate them. And they understood that. And what I want to tell you is that the union unanimously said that they would forego their 2.5% wage increase next year. I'm heartened by that. And equally in measure, though it's not we don't have a contract with our non-union folks, we have an agreement, but we always facilitate a good, healthy conversation. That was matched. For me, I've been part of a union. I've been in various situations. I've also seen, when the economy gets really tough and people sometimes retreat back into their own personal interests. This team stepped forward and said, we know that we have a great place to work. We know that we are stronger together. And we really are stronger together. And we have challenges ahead of us. I'm not wearing rose-colored glasses. There are still things that are beyond our control in the near and far. But I think we will be able to surpass some of this. And I just wanted to share that with you folks because that gives us another opportunity to look at the numbers more realistically, right? It gives you just one more line to be looking at as we build out the 2020 budget, 2021 budget. So, but I did want to share that with you.
I wanted to ask, Pat, when we talked about we're using the reserves this year, and you said how much there are, we're anticipating that we're going to use all the reserves, or are we going to have anything left for next year?
No, I anticipate we're gonna have some reserve funds.
Okay, and so some of these savings that we're getting through all these different ways, we would have something to put forward for next year when.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't have any rose-colored glasses, so, I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a tough year.
Tom, we're taking the approach of addressing multiple things. There's no one silver bullet here, okay? You can't just exhaust your reserves. You can't just do it on the backs of the employees. You can't just cut all spending this year. And there's multiple things that need to occur, and we're doing our due diligence to make sure that every rock and nook and cranny are really evaluated. It goes back to the thing like essential spending. As I said before, the highway garage, if they need a hammer, for instance, then they need a hammer. There's certain things that still need to occur day in and day out, but there are some other items that by pushing them off a year, would we have preferred to have done it next year or this year? Yeah, probably, but it will be okay if we push it off a year or two.
And there's different forms of budget methods or budgeting methods, so I think the zero-based budgeting has certainly, I hear from our colleagues that serve as well.
Yeah. Any other questions?
About the budget, Michael?
Yeah, just, while we have Pat here, I know it doesn't look it, but we still do have some healthy other stuff. I just want to say, we've said it last year during the budget season, Debbie included, had said that Pat has done a remarkable job since he's been in this position. He really hones in. Yeah, I mean, it's,
But Debbie just gave me a thumbs up, that's fine.
but I can tell you that Pat, you know, and the department heads and myself are laser focused, and I know you folks are as well. As more information develops, the town board will certainly be kept up to speed on it. You know, in the words of Mike Zerlo, plan with the numbers you have. Don't hypothesize too much because things could change, you know, so often. That's not to say that you ignore things that could be on the horizon, but we're starting to get a little bit better sense. The economy actually is opened, you know, earlier than some people thought would happen. In all honesty, some people thought that, you know, the phase one might not happen for a while longer. You know, could it come crashing down again? Yep. I mean, there's so many other factors, but you know, the practices that we've had in place for a while, like the zero-based budgeting, I think empower our team members to know what the expectation is and how to get to the finish line too.
I have another question on you were mentioning the grants that we wouldn't expect quite as much in this year. Pat, so there will be some, and do we have the ability to go forward with some of those projects?
Well, paving, we're gonna match up to whatever grant money we expect to receive, depending on whether we can even have enough employees come back and do that, depending on what phase we're in. The AIM money, we only get about $92,000 on that. We're looking at maybe $46,000 if we're lucky, so that helps our operating fund in the general fund for operations. And then, as far as the battlefield protection is one of our other grants.
Yep.
That one depends on how much work we get, so they kind of offset each other, but I haven't gotten any information on that one yet, where it's.
There's also lots of conversations, Tom, and it's as clear as mud, that the state is not in a good, you know, fiscal state. I mean, it's no surprise, okay? And when they pass the budget this year, usually when you pass the budget, your allocation, for lack of a better term, comes in lump sum, right? It's like, you know what the allocations is, it kind of tracks through the allocation line, and you know what you're gonna get for the most part. This time, they're doing it in smaller chunks. State aid for education right now is anticipated being reduced by approximately 20%. And that's one of the biggest pieces of the pie of the state. So, you know, what will happen as things get reallocated? The county, for example, and I don't, this is not to pick on them, I just use this as an example because there's been robust conversations about this before, but certain services come to the town of Plattsburgh through the county, like Board of Elections, right? Okay? So if the price of something goes up in the county, right, for whatever reason, then that will get out, like repurposed or redesignated or trickle down, however you want to call it, to the town. So we're going to have to find a way to finesse and to manage, you know, those expectations. You know, that's why I'm talking with Mr. Zerlo regularly. You know, they're doing some things differently as well. And as we get some more information, we'll kind of keep that chart, or, you know, those balance sheets of the town, the proverbial, you know, up to date.
One grant I was particularly interested in, I'm wondering if there's any still going forward or not, is for the vault. Through the town clerk's office, and you know, in terms of going through the vault, we had people over to give us a quote and stuff like that. Has anything happened with
Sure.
that?
I'm going to spin it around to Kevin and see if he wants to comment on that.
Well, as luck would have it, I sent an email to Maria McCashin today from the state, and she sounded optimistic. So she said that we'd know for sure probably by late summer, and maybe September before the grants are decided upon. But Plattsburgh's, she she won't tip her hand, of course she can't. But she alluded to the fact that Plattsburgh really needed work. We had four quotes, we got some very reasonable quotes, and, she seemed very optimistic that we would get that grant. So, I'm hoping we'll get it, we really could use it, I'll tell you. Thanks, Tom.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's why I say, you know, we still don't know what we don't know. And, as things come in, we'll get you updated on stuff. Okay.
Michael, I'd just like to add a thanks to you and Patrick for the leadership since the very beginning. The approach has been it's been professional, it's been empathetic with the team, and you know you look around and you see a lot of craziness out there, but you know you've been able to steer the ship calmly and coolly, and I agree with the steps that were taken. I think they're very measured. It's not slash, cut, burn, and I think we just have to stay that course.
Debbie? You're on mute. Oh, no, you're on mute. There you go.
This might be a little bit early to ask this question, but in light of the fact that retail is, it's gonna take a huge hit.
Mm-hmm.
And the town gets so much of their money from, general funding from sales tax. Are you rethinking maybe your model of funding, going to more direct tax?
Sure. Let me speak for myself first, and I certainly would open it up. For this year, Debbie, I would not like to go to or even consider a town tax for this year, okay? For a multitude of reasons. We are living in such unprecedented times with such high anxiety that I don't think it is fair to the public to say, we're gonna start looking at a tax that's never been there before.
It has been, wait.
But yes, but respectively, you know, for people that are here now though, and maybe living in these time, in the town, have never seen it in their lifetime, in a sense. So for this year and this budget kind of cycle, I would advocate that we do not. I think that it has always been, and it's always been my position personally, to evaluate what is the most appropriate fiscal measures going forward. The comptroller, I believe, has noted, and I'd have to go back and take a look. He's reported on the kind of wavering of where sales tax goes, over many, years and months. So the model, should be investigated further, but I don't think right now is the time to change the model. It may be the time to continue to investigate and look at what models may be appropriate. And I'll be the first, and again, I don't want to hog the time and make it seem like I'm speaking for the board. I've just given this a lot of consideration personally as we look at the numbers. When a town does have what is often referred to as a true town tax or property tax, I personally would directly advocate that the county sales tax, like other municipalities, is redispersed to the property owners to offset, the property tax.
I think that's what the law says.
So, but there's been lots of questions in the years past though, so just putting that out there directly though. So again, there's much more conversations that need to occur in the models though, yeah.
Well, that's why I said, it might be a little bit premature, but it kind of seems that had, in hindsight, there been property tax, that then you wouldn't be where you are right now. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You have the money in the coffers, let's put it that way. I don't know.
Well, I think the one thing that we
I'm
have.
not blaming anybody, don't get me wrong.
No, it's a fair statement, Debbie, but the thing that we've done well by is, unlike other municipalities though, we have a reserve, so we have done the responsible thing within the model that we're using. Whereas other municipalities, don't have a reserve, and they play the roulette table, and they hope they don't land on the wrong color.
You're right, you're right,
Yeah, so, any other, I don't, like I said, I'm not speaking for the board in that sentiment, I just, am very passionate about that topic at this time. I think it's worthy of investigation, as it always has been, so.
And I agree, Michael. I think if you recall, we discussed it, and I mentioned that briefly, is
Yeah.
that we may have to adjust that model, but I would agree, and I think as we go further into the year, it's probably gonna tell us more whether that model's gonna have to be adjusted or not, but I think we have to keep it, in the line of sight in some way, shape, or manner, in case we do have to go that way someday.
Yeah. Before I let Patrick go, we've thanked him a lot. I just wanted to share a story, and Pat's heard it a couple of times now. But the one thing that I shared with the employees was a personal experience from my own life. And many, many moons ago, when I was a teenager, I worked for the company Ocean Spray Cranberries, okay? And not only did I work for Ocean Spray, but my mother worked for Ocean Spray, my grandmother worked for Ocean Spray, my grandfather worked for, we were part of, the co-op family business. And I worked for the maintenance department, and one day I went in and my supervisor told me that we were building a call center for approximately 300 people, okay? And we went in and we built the space, but what always just took me back a little bit was there was a chair, a table with a computer and a phone, and there was a chair on the opposite side. I just found that really strange. I never thought to bring it up or ask any questions or anything. Well, anyways, one day I went home and I was sitting having my family dinner, and my mother informed me that there were mass layoffs occurring at Ocean Spray. The next day, I went in and I talked with my supervisor, who informed me that I was going to be let go, which, I'm low man on the totem pole. And we had a good relationship, and he didn't even know this. But what we had built was not a call center, but was an out-processing center. And that out-processing center would be used by my mother. The reason I share that story with you is it's the same story that I shared with our employees or our team members. As long as I'm supervisor, I'll call it straight, I'll share the details, the good, the bad, the ugly. But I'm absolutely confident that team members that we have, like people like Patrick, who are watching the bottom line, who also have the best interest of our taxpayers, and work in a collaborative manner and in a transparent manner, we can rally through this. I truly believe this. So I just wanted to share that after the all-hands meeting, again, many people reached out to me personally. They weren't thanking me, they were thanking the board for creating a climate and a culture that was a good place to work. And we have a good team. And I'm gonna try to do something that was supposed to be done at the last meeting that Barb had come up with. I'm not sure if we can do it or not. So hold on, Barb. Let me see if I can do it. Barb worked on this, and
Meg's help.
and with Meg's help, and we love our top town of Plattsburgh staff. Publicly, we just want to thank all of them. They are on the front lines. They are doing the great work, and I couldn't be prouder to be part of this team. Not just the town council or the town board, but the immensely talented group that we have. Any comments or things for the good of the order before we let Pat go, folks?
I try to be transparent, but except if you see these glasses on, maybe I'm not, you never know, could be from New Jersey.
All right. Anybody else?
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks, Patrick.
It's for you.
There,
So,
be safe.
sorry I couldn't get that shared last week, folks. All right,
Yeah.
thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
Yep,
You're welcome, bye-bye now.
good to see you.
All right. We're gonna truck on forward. In the packet, we do have draft minutes, monthly report, construction deposit for UMS properties. Also, to advertise the base water bids. I'm gonna go to that in a moment when we kind of do the structure of the committee reports, because I know some counselors wanted to jump into a couple different things. The first thing that I wanted to do as a carryover, I know that last meeting was a little bit different because we don't usually kind of brainstorm or some stuff during a regular meeting like that. But recreation, we're trying to make a number of determinations moving forward so that we can not just plan but act, okay? So I wanted a consensus. I talked with Jim, there's no need for a resolution or anything like that. So it'll be kind of a straw poll, if you mind. The Katyville Beach, we discussed, we were leaning towards, and the general vibe I was getting was that we supported not opening the beach this year for health and safety, not putting that responsibility on our teenage staff, cost savings. I mean, there was a litany of reasons. Can everybody give a thumbs up if you're in agreement with that from a straw poll? Yes.
Michael, just one thing with that.
Yep.
I actually did have a conversation with Mel just before
Yep.
our meeting. She reached out to me. They do want to consider using that as a waterfront park. And that would just mean probably some different signage. And they would have to go to county health department.
Yep. I think that's appropriate. I mean, there's you know, there's just things that we'll need to do a little bit differently. The other item was that we would adopt a philosophy, and to me, there's a big difference between close and mothball, for a lack of better terms, that we would mothball some of our parks for a period of time. It would lower the impact of having to have our team members out there cleaning recreation buildings. Mowing would still occur, but maybe instead of twice a week, it would be once a week, and just you know, minimizing some of the impact of that. Everybody, straw poll.
If we do that, I mean, we're not gonna have baseball or anything like that, so wouldn't those fields naturally, we would not have them open at all? There's no sports on it?
Correct, but part of the reason that we're going to communicate to the public is right now certain amenities of parks are being discouraged from being used. We will inform the public that we do not want people, you know, in some of those spaces because we may not be able to manage them at the same level, you know, as before. You know, also, for example, Tom, you know, our recreation buildings, you know, those would be mothballed for a period of time. We're still going through the finer details. This is the general philosophy of kind of getting to where we need to go. And as far as mowing, you know, we don't want the grass to go so high, right, that you have rodents and, you know, like things like that. So some maintenance would need to occur. It would just be a reduced maintenance structure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so the last item in the recreation kind of world was that the rec department was working on I don't know the official title of it, but it was the Saranac Mini Tri, which was a boating, running, biking experience later. You know, I think that with so many activities throughout the summer that are being kind of extinguished, now is the time to take that off the docket and refocus that time and energy to planning for, you know, months afterwards for fall activities and even into 2021 as we reimagine recreation. General support?
Michael, not to blindside you here, but
It's okay.
that came came up in conversation with Mel, because I believe in committee, Meg, I don't think we discussed that one specifically.
We talked about it, but we didn't go into detail.
Yeah, and I also did have a quick conversation with Aaron about it
Okay.
before I had the opportunity to talk to Mel. Is there a way we can maybe kick that down the road a couple of weeks before we make a decision on that?
Sure.
Because they wanted to kind of talk that through with the Saranac folks, just to see, there may be an opportunity with that particular event, where they did a shotgun start last year.
Yeah.
We'll do a staggered start. There may be some opportunity for that one and limit the number of participants. I think that one might be worthy of just a little bit more discussion because it's late summer.
Okay. Can you?
And I apologize.
No, this is why we're doing it as a straw poll. I mean, I'm glad that we're having these conversations. Can you next week bring back a date by which, so that we don't lose it in the mix? I do feel we need to have kind of those goalposts that we stay on, and so that I have no objection to that. Anybody else?
No, I don't have objection to it, but I do know that practically every cancellation, almost every cancellation, has been rescheduled. Postponement has been rescheduled till the fall or till the same time, so there may be a number of conflicts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no.
This particular event is an August 8th date. And I think they just wanted to have a little bit of opportunity to discuss. They may be able to adapt and still meet the guidelines, because this really is an individual event. It's not a team event. And really, I think where there may be some questions, or you have to look at is at the start and at the finish, and how that's handled. So I think if we just maybe give them a little bit of opportunity just to discuss that out.
I'm just thinking of it in this moment, Chuck. The city of Plattsburgh actually held their half marathon, but did it virtually. So there may, and no, they weren't on their computer running, for clarity for folks. I can see the glimmer in your eyes. But people did it independently and reported their numbers back. So yeah, there may be a model. I just wanted, knowing that was one of the larger activities that's taking some significant resources from departments, I just didn't want to lose sight of it. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll have a date for next week.
Okay. Tom?
Well, one of the things, in my opinion, that the people, for the most part, in the North Country have been following good practices, not everybody, but most of them, and the people that would participate in this, I think, would be of that line, and I believe that if that's made clear at the beginning, outdoor activities like this are certainly more than 6 feet apart, and like you said, if you had a staggered start or something, and then there would at least be some activity that's real, I'm not saying the virtual isn't real, but some activity. Now, yeah, somebody might pass somebody else, but you could stay a little bit apart when you did. So I think these are the types of recreation that we might be able to see in the future.
Yeah.
And I agree that this would be good, wait and see.
Tom and Chuck, I think one of the groups that we're really going to need to engage in some conversations is our first responders. What would their participation level be, and how would they respond? Because last year when they did have it, they were not only at various stages. I think you, Chuck, in a couple of your Katie.
Yeah, I was in a boat on the river. Yes.
Yeah, without a paddle, and.
No, I had a motor.
So, just making sure that our expectations and the reality of the challenges for them, sometimes we just go, oh yeah, next year with slight modifications, but we want to make sure that we're not putting some undue burden on them too. Yeah, okay.
Meg and Chuck, just a lot of good details last week. Tennis courts, not open, correct?
As soon as we have signage,
Yeah.
yes, they will be, and then that's the signs. Signs have been ordered, should be here, the, 21st, 22nd, somewhere's in that neighborhood. So the tennis courts will open back up in the parks that were not falling. A park will open up and disc golf will open up.
With the baskets taken off for now.
Baskets taken off for the time being, and that will all have appropriate signage. Tennis will be singles, no double, but all appropriate signage will be up. Mel and Aaron put together a great job, or a great sign package, those have been ordered. And they're developing a routine for the visitations. I had a discussion with her about that. And she's gonna come up with a punk list to upskill, the buildings and grounds team. Because obviously, if they're in one of the parks, and we have some people that are not following the proper guidelines, really, they kind of have a duty to engage and have a conversation, just to educate.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up is a constituent today asked me about the tennis courts, and I said, stay tuned, but what was really interesting, and so thank you for rec department of buildings and grounds, he traveled around the town to see if the tennis courts were up. The nets were no place to be found, which what he wanted me to know is, thank you for the consistency in the message. So it's not that you go one place and there was a net up and another place there wasn't, so something as minor as that is really important, and our constituents asking us questions about that, so.
And Mel has a plan, they're all gonna go together, they're gonna have a busy day that day.
Okay.
It's time to get signage up and, you know, get the knots up, et cetera, but they have a plan in place to kick it all in when it's starting to roll.
But he thanked us for the consistency of not having them up.
Yeah.
So he did send mixed messages.
She's gonna do a news release and also Facebook and et cetera, once we're rolling.
Okay.
I know that there's some other activity that was going on. Yep, Tom?
Do we know which ones we want to mothball?
Yes, we reviewed it before, we reviewed,
Guy Cedar, South Plattsburgh, West Plattsburgh.
yep,
And Tom, if anybody asked you about that, those are pretty strategic because Guy Cedar, you have Wallaceville not that far away, South Plattsburgh, Cliff Haven's not that far away, West Plattsburgh, you have East Morrisonville. So a couple of miles, you have a park available within the town. So
Yeah.
it's not like everything in one area shut. They're strategically mothballed.
Keep, Katyville open.
yes.
Yeah, Katyville will stay open, Wallaceville, Cumberland Head, Cliff Haven.
I know that we talked about draft resolutions, but I also want to kind of dovetail it under the committee report. Folks, any comments from the water committee as it relates to the water bids material?
We had a good review with Scott this morning about everything. This is a pretty straightforward project. He doesn't know which way to think about if the bids will come in, if they'll come in strong. There's reason to believe that they may come in. It's a good straightforward project that would certainly be essential. So we'll wait and see what happens there.
People might be hungry for the business, so we might get some really good bids.
Well, that's what we discussed too. Plus it's insulated because like Mike said, it is an essential. So you're less likely if they start, you know, shutting things down a little bit, you're less likely to shut down on that project.
There are some grant funds and some minority women-owned business details attached to it that could pose a little bit of a challenge maybe for some contractors, but it's probably nothing that I haven't dealt with before.
And of course, like anything, if something comes back so astronomical, we can reject the bids, okay? So, all right, thank you. Anything for planning? I know that both Tom and Barb have had a high interest in seeing seats filled in the planning board. Are you still kind of vetting some people before making some recommendations?
Well, I think we feel that Melania would be a good appointment, as a permanent appointment on that board, but she needs to be contacted to make sure that she's still interested. I have.
Yeah, I'm swiftness, but keep in mind that the succession planning for our boards is very important, and I, like Meg, was very anxious and interested to get the list, as some of those vacancies are on some of the liaison committees that Tom and I work with, but whether it's the assessment review committee or the zoning boards, ZBA, I think it's important that we keep the applicant pool robust if we can, and use that application that we came up with.
And it seemed as though from the theater or the seats, there was a thumbs up from Debbie as well. So it's always nice to hear as Debbie serves as a member of that group. I don't know of any other lingering business from our committees, but I do know that there's a need for an executive session tonight. Bye, Debbie. Do you want to hold to find out what time we leave?
And Michael, can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Just the transformation of the town sounds really good.
Yep.
Any consideration for the town court downstairs?
We are awaiting directives under the guidance from the court administration as far as some of the things that may or may need to be achieved. So we're having those conversations. Plexiglass, for one example, will be added to the bench. There'll be some other things that need to be done, but we're waiting more guidance because the court is its own animal for a number of reasons. So more to come on that. Yep.
Okay, because they could pull the trigger, and I know we'll certainly try to be ready.
Yep. All right.
Thank you.
Without further ado, is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss the ongoing pending litigation for certiorari defined by the following individuals: Champlain Center Mall, Consumer Square, and Key Bank? Is there a motion to the effect? I'm going to say Lefebvre, I'm going to say Caustic. Time would be 6:52. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We'll go into executive session. Be safe, Debbie. Be well.
Bye, Debbie.
And I'm going to let Kevin shut off the recording as well. Can everybody